Hey, well, welcome everybody. We'd like to thank you all for coming out to the Ogden-Layton Area Technical Advisory Committee for TransCom today. Today's Wednesday, October 16th. It is a little past 10, so we're going to get started here. Our first action item is the approval of the August 7th meeting minutes. If there's anybody here or online that had a chance to go through those minutes and would like to make a motion, or if they have any comments, we will accept those now. Yeah. Thanks. There's a motion on the floor from Boyd from West Point. Is there a second? A second from Ashley from Weber County. Appreciate it. Okay, minutes are passed. Looks like our second item is the Transportation Improvement Program business. We'll invite Ben up to go over that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Morning, everybody. So today we have a couple of board modifications we want to review and take care of first. We'll have the presentation pop up here. So the two that we have to look at today is a project request from Riverdale City and a project request from UTA in Clearfield. The first project here, many of you that have been around since 2017 will recall that we had an opportunity to review an intersection. This intersection here is on Ritter Drive and SR 60. It's a 5-legged intersection currently. Its current design right now. The intent is to construct a roundabout in this intersection, which will minimize conflict points, improve safety for all the users. That would be the vehicle, bike, and ped users. Originally, the project estimated cost was $618,000. The funds that were requested were $500,000. And back in the time during the meeting, the TAC and then approved by the regional council was for $576,000, taking it up to $618,000 with the local match. Since that time, in the design of the project, it's been identified that the project will cost now $921,000 plus. Part of that is due to the delay. Many of you may recall that Roger Worthland that worked for Riverdale City. He was one of the proponents that put this project together and had it moving forward. And then he got ill and passed away and left kind of a hole there in the city. But as they worked around and got things moving forward, they're back around to working on this project. We have Brandon here with Riverdale. But with this new project estimate, I forgot my train of thought, but with the new project estimate, due to the right-of-way and the other expenses with construction, there's a request for additional funds of $244,000. That'll leave about $60,000 for the city to come forward with in additional match fund. So this is the first board mod or the first request in this board action. Any questions on this? I kind of really killed my explanation. Brandon, anything you'd add? Yeah. Oh, good. The refreshments are really good. That's everyone's. The second project is a request from UTA. Now this project started back in actually, Riverdale started in 2016, and this project started in 2017. And the initial project here on Clearfield TOD was to construct a pedestrian bridge from the front runner station across the rails. This would go into the Freeport Center, where there was a lot of traffic, minimizing the need to walk all the way around to be able to access the Freeport Center from the intermodal center from the front runner station. It was recommended and approved for $1.6+ million on this project. And as this project was moving forward and working into design, things would happen that right here in this area, actually, this is where the Freeport or the Intermodal Center is. But you can see as the idea or the intent for this to come across the rail, there was a building right in this location where this is where it would touch down and it would distribute the traffic through the Freeport Center there. But in this location, actually, it just disappeared. Anyway, the guy who owned the property there built a building. So it eliminated the possibility to come across the structure or come across the railroad tracks with the structure. So UTA came back to us a few years ago and they said, hey, we've got another idea and we'll work with Clearfield City, but we propose that we take the rail trail. Am I causing all the double? Was I sounding twice as good with two mics? They had another proposal that would go around and would be able to plug the trail into the existing trail as well as provide a location to get into the Freeport Center. So they proposed two different trails on this project. There was this phase here, option 1. And then there was option 2. These projects went through the evaluation and into the process. That's my twin brother you can hear talking in the background. And then, so with the options that were recommended and approved, the UTA went forward, and I'm seeing the same slides over and over again. They identified the route that was going to be constructed, and they began to work on that with the development that was taking place there. In and around the station park area. I don't know what Clearfield calls that, the development that they have there, but it's the big development there with UTA. Anyway, there's a request for additional funds. Also, due to construction costs, due to other expenses in the project, there's a request that we add an additional $503,000+ to this project. That would be the two projects before us in the board modification at this time. Are there any questions that I could kill worse than I just did in this presentation? Sweet. Madam Chair, we're ready for an action.
Okay, thanks, Ben. You did fine on the presentations. We'll open it up for discussion or action. We'll take motions individually if you like, or I can take them as a whole for both. If anybody would like to ask any questions or have any comments on either project, sure.
It's been volatile the last couple of years as far as trying to pin down those estimates. These projects are current year. Do we have any others that are a little nervous seeing what's happening?
So those are good questions, Daniel. There, the question is how are we doing with our projected project costs? These projects, the first one there on rear was actually programmed back in 2016. So we're a little behind there, and with project expenses that have increased. This one was in 2017. So again, and we had a kind of a change of scope on both of them. So that would be more on the reasoning. These two are a little a leap from the others, but to address your question, in our cost estimation forms, we do have inflation. We do help and encourage that there's contingency plugged into the project. And I think overall, we're doing pretty good. We do have other board modifications. There's a couple in the Salt Lake area that we'll be taking where the project has actually been on scope, been on time, and they're still coming in under budget. or over budget under the engineer's estimate. And I think we'll address these projects as we move forward. The fear of increasing inflation factors or over programming funds for projects, which has been one suggestion, ties up a lot of our funds. And I think we'd rather address each project as we move forward rather than tie funds up in programming, anticipating a potential increase. That's kind of the direction we're going.
Whether or not we should keep this more of a sledgehammer or with the scalpel as far as precision on our estimates, because it has been very challenging the last couple of years.
Agreed. Thanks, Daniel.
And just for your information, this project is starting in spring of 25 and will be completed in 26. So these are the final costs.
Perfect. Thanks, Tracy.
Hi, Ben. Did I see that this trail will connect to the DNRG rail trail as a direct connection?
It will. It'll connect to the both the DNRG as well as the surface trail that's on the north end and in the trail there that runs along Antelope. So it'll tie them all together.
I might have missed this, but are both of these projects CMAQ?
Another good question. Yes.
Hey, thank you all for the questions. Those are great questions, and thanks for helping us understand them further, Ben. Right. Is there anybody that would like to make a motion? Okay, we have a motion from Daniel from Ogden City to move forward with the project's additional funding as proposed. We have a second from David with Davis County. Appreciate it. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, everybody. Next, we're going to talk about the letters of intent that have been submitted. All right. Thank you, everybody. And online, actually, Rosie, I've got, it's called Ogden TAC. There's the folder that we can put online for the folks. Okay, so as all of you are aware, or hopefully you're aware, last September, it was only last month. It seemed like a year ago, but it was just last month. We requested letters of intent for potential projects. These sheets that you see here, it's 2 sheets front and back. These are the projects that have been submitted in the letters of intent. So as you go across these projects, we've just really thinned them down to where we've got the county that the project's in, the project sponsor, the name of the project, a brief project description. Some of those descriptions I whittled down a little. We've got some very prolific writers. We've got the estimated cost, the funds requested, the local match, and in the selected programs. Now, in some of those selected programs, you'll see that there's multiple, and that's great. That's what we've requested. And as staff, what we will do is we will go through, do a real high level evaluation on the eligibility of the project and make recommendation as to what program you ought to submit a concept report form for. There may be multiples depending on the project. We want your project to have the best opportunity to proceed and move forward. The intent for showing you this list is so that you can go through and see if you think or submitted a letter of intent and it's not on here, I don't got it. And so what I need to do is make communications with you so we have those letters of intent, because we've got a soft deadline on the letters of intent, but our concept report forms are a hard deadline, and that's the middle of December. So what we intend to do is take these projects and any others that we may have missed, and then send out to you a spreadsheet with a link to the concept report that would be appropriate for that project. And then have you submit that letter or that concept report back to us by middle of December. Are there any questions on any of this? These are sorted by county. I think they're sorted by county, and then project sponsor is how they're sorted if you're having trouble finding your city or your letter of intent. Any questions on this? This is important to make sure we haven't left anybody out. Daniel. Yeah, and Daniel, I appreciate that question. We get asked on a regular, and generally it's in March that we come. We still have a soft number on that, but we'll include in the minutes kind of the allocation numbers so that you're aware of what the program gets. The problem we have is between now and March, if there's board modifications or those funds, when a project closes out and comes back into the program, that number will fluctuate. And so in March, we have a little finer window of what we're ready to available to program. But in our meeting minutes, we'll send out the estimate amounts that are available for each program. So thank you. Yes. Oh, yes. So the question was if we had an estimated amount of funds for each of the programs this year. And so in the minutes, we'll include that estimated amount for each of the 4 programs. Well, there's 5 programs that are identified on here. One of the programs that is on here that we don't talk a lot about in this group, and that's the TLC program. The programs that we do talk a lot about are the STP, or Surface Transportation Program, Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Program, Transportation Alternative Program, and the Carbon Reduction Program. And so hopefully that's helpful. Any questions? Anything I missed? Madam Chair, I'm all done.
Thanks, Ben. Okay, we're going to move on to item 3. We're going to invite Chris Potter from UDOT up to do a discussion on B and C roads.
All right, thank you. My name is Chris Potter. I'm the UDOT Local Government Programs Engineer. And I want to thank Ben and WFRC for the opportunity to come and talk a little bit about the Class B and C road program. Just out of interest, how many of you are familiar with that program? Okay, good. That's a good sign. For those that aren't, 30% of the gas taxes go to the local governments. The other 70% go to UDOT to maintain the state system. And so that 30% is distributed to all the municipalities and counties across the state. And that's where they get the majority of their funding to maintain and build new roads. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the program. I'm going to try and get as much information out there as I can, but do it as briefly as possible so that there's time for any kind of discussion. Questions and answers is really kind of the thought. So the B&C program was initially started back in 1937 by the Utah legislature. There's been a few major changes over the years. In 1982, there was a pretty big, significant change in the distribution formula. And another big one was in 1998. Prior to 1998, UDOT used to have a crew of about 6 individuals that would go out and certify the mileage for every city and county across the state every year. And in 1998, we were directed by the legislature to not do that anymore. So we created a self-certification program. So it's up to each of the municipalities and counties to update their mileages with us so that they can get paid. And so that's pretty significant because every once in a while, I'll talk to there's turnover and stuff in an organization, find out that they haven't updated their mileage for 5 or 10 years, yet they've built all these roads and they're not getting paid for them until they update them with us. So that was a pretty significant change. You would think this many years later, 25 some odd years later, that everyone would be on board with that, but there's still some, especially in the rural areas of the state, there's some that have never updated their mileage since 1998, when the last time we certified it with them is. So if you're in that situation, come talk to me afterwards and we'll get you caught up. And then every year with the legislative session, of course, there are changes that affect the program. So what is a B&C road? Basically, it's any public highway, road, or street that is in a city or county. So it does not include private roads. And that's one of the stumbling blocks. Sometimes they'll want to include private roads or things like that. And those aren't allowed. So it is public roads. So you update those with UDOT and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So project eligibility, what can you use these Class B and C road funds for? It's pretty broad, as long as you can make a direct connection between maintenance or construction of roadways. So you can use it to buy the equipment, you can use it to pay your maintenance crews to maintain it, you can to plow it, stripe it, all that stuff, and for new construction, reconstruction, and maintenance as well. A lot of times I'll get questions where it's kind of a gray area, and my recommendation for that is if it's a gray area, most municipalities and counties across the state are telling me they don't receive enough B&C funds to actually maintain their system, and they have to use other general fund monies to do that. I would take it out of the general fund money, because if I say, yeah, it's eligible, that's my opinion only. If a state auditor comes and disagrees, their opinion is the one that's going to count. So just kind of a thought. That's kind of project eligibility. If a lot of times, especially in rural areas of the state, if there's a state highway that goes through your town and it's kind of your main street, it is UDOT's, but you can use your B&C money or other monies for that. But if you're going to do that, you need to coordinate with UDOT and get their approval. So whatever you're doing to that facility, since we own it, we're going to be okay with that. So the distribution of the funds are distributed every 2 months. So we'll make 6 distributions throughout the year. And the distribution formula, it's much more complex, but I'm going to simplify it to where basically 50% of the funding is based off of the population. And we get those population numbers every year from the Kem Gardner Institute at the University of Utah to update those for the distribution formula. Then the other 50% is based off of your mileage. And that's divided into three different types of roadway types. There's paved, and paved roads are weighted by a factor of 5. So they're paid 5 times more. And then gravel and dirt are weighted by a factor of 2. So when you do your update, you do need to be able to break out your system into those 3 different categories. And then generally private roads, like we talked before, are not eligible, as well as locked gates, alleyways, roads within parks and cemeteries are also ineligible. So if you've got any other special situations, contact me and we can look at that further and determine whether they would be eligible or not. So the mileage update guidelines. So on our website, if you just do a Google search for UDOT local government assistance, that will take you to our webpage for local governments. And the very top of that page has our B&C mileage. And we've got all the distributions, and you can find out your mileages and stuff clear back to 2011. So there's a lot of information there. So if you're not familiar with that page, you probably want to get familiar with that page. But there's also a mileage update submittal form there. So when you update your mileage with us, you need to fill out that form. You can type it in, you can hand fill it out, whatever's easiest for you. And then somebody needs to sign that, that can certify those mileages for your municipality or county. And then it also needs to be accompanied with a map that shows the roads that you're claiming and differentiate the line type by color or some way that it's obvious so we know whether it's a paved gravel or dirt road. And the reason for that, we need it for audits. A lot of times we get grammar requests on this, and citizens of your municipalities and counties want to know, is my road being claimed? And you can guess where it goes from there a lot of times. So with that, we need the mileage to the 100th. Sometimes we'll get it to 1,000th or 10,000th. That's way too much detail. And usually, so it's like I said, it's every 2 months. Once the period ends, we usually get that mileage updated, and the distribution payment posts usually 3 to 4 weeks after the deadline, with the exception the last distribution period of the state fiscal year. The state fiscal year ends June 30th. Usually on a regular distribution, it would be available around the end of August, but it's usually around the end of September because we've got to close out the books, make a final distribution for the entire year. So it takes a little bit longer to do that. And that's because this year it was even a couple weeks later because we were waiting for the Department of the Treasury to tell us how much funding we have to distribute. So we kind of already went over the allocation of funds. This is just a brief example, and I've got a handout that has everything we're talking about plus this example in there that kind of shows roughly how it's calculated. So in the last year, we've updated our administrative rule R926-3 that oversees the B&C road program. So it's like a 7-8 page document. So it might be worth taking a look at that if you haven't looked at it for a while. A lot of good information there. And then also Utah Code 72.3, 103, and 104 is where a lot of the statute is regarding the B&C road program. So any questions on the program? Yes.
Question, Chris. Does the city get some B funds as well, or just C funds, and does the county get some C funds or just B funds? Do they overlap?
So yeah, that's a good question. So typically you only claim miles within the boundaries, city boundaries. We do allow it typically if a lot of times you'll have a county that will maintain a road, a city road within the county for them. They've got an agreement in place to do that. Or if you've got two cities or two counties that are adjacent to each other, it may make more sense to have one entity maintain a small portion of the road that just creeps into the adjoining municipality or county, whereas the majority of it's in the other one. And so we do allow that, but I'm glad you brought that up because last year we had an audit by the Office of the Legislative Audit General. And that's one of the things that they wanted us to start requiring with mileage updates is if you have agreements where you're going to be maintaining somebody else's mileage and claiming it, you need to submit your agreement with your mileage update form and map. And the reason for that is if we just have these kind of informal handshake agreements, as people move positions, retire, things like that, that knowledge sometimes gets lost and it doesn't get transferred over. And the real concern is that the new person coming in may say, hey, we're not claiming this section of road. And they start claiming it where there was a handshake agreement that an adjoining municipality was maintaining it for them and claiming it. So that piece of road may be paid twice. And that could happen hundreds of times across the state with all the municipalities and stuff. So yeah, you can. So the answer is yes, you can claim miles outside of your jurisdiction if you have an agreement in place with the folks that should, where the mileage is within their jurisdiction. Just make sure that you submit agreements for that and both of you are aware of that and the mileage isn't being double counted. Yes.
The people online can't hear you.
Question I have is electric vehicles. With the growing proportion of them on our roadways, has there been any discussion about, some type of participation for the use of the roadway? Those type of vehicles?
Yeah, that's a good question. So typically gas taxes is the way that we funded roads in Utah since forever. And Utah is actually one of the few states that's leading the nation in what they're calling a road user charge. And so we've actually got a pilot program in place where electric vehicles can register for that, and they can either pay per miles that they drive or a set amount in their vehicle registrations each year, whichever's lower. And we're doing that to try and encourage electric vehicle owners to jump on board and help give us data to build this through the program pilot phase. But yes, as we get more and more of these types of vehicles on the road and we're selling less and less gas, we've got to figure out a way to make everyone pay their fair share. And so we're in that pilot stage and we're building out that program and working towards that. Yes. Any other questions? Okay, well, my contact information is there. If you have any questions down the road, feel free to give me a call. More than happy to help you with the BNC road program or any other local government type issues that you've got roadway related. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris. That was very informative. Okay, looks like next on the agenda, we're going to invite Michael Goldman to give us a presentation about UTA's TDM annual report.
Hi, everybody. Appreciate you letting me be here to present on our program and some of the things that we're doing. I know a lot of you know about our program. There's some UTA people there. So I'll just quickly go through what our program does. Let's see. So you can read through this since it's being recorded, but basically our rideshare program oversees different van pool services, commuter matching, and education. We have an awesome team of 11 people, and we have some core principles that our department lives by. So if we have decisions in front of us that would be fiscally responsible, that would reduce single occupancy vehicles and increase ridership, then as long as it's not breaking the law, I allow the team to make those decisions without coming to me. So we do try to live by those principles, and especially where we get funding from all of you. We appreciate that, and we want to use that the best way that we can. So just looking at those fiscal expenses, we have received in 2023, we received admin funds, looking specifically at the Weber Davis section at the bottom. We had 255,000 qualifying expenses, and the funds that we received were 127,000. So basically half of our program for the vehicles in your area were funded through WFRC CMAQ funds. And we do really appreciate that. To show some of the benefits that come from that, on the right side, we have Weber and Davis. There we have well over 4 million vehicle miles reduced. And that results in over 6,000 tons of reduced emissions. So it's a really good program. We've seen a lot of return on the investment with those CMAQ funds. Lately, with gas prices being up and word of mouth and employees moving around to different companies, we've seen pretty significant growth in the van pool program. Specifically in the Salt Lake and Weber Davis areas, we've seen right now we have more growth in Salt Lake than Weber Davis, but overall we've seen a pretty good growth. We currently have 106 active vehicles in the Weber Davis area. And when I started in 2019, we had 114 vehicles that were funded through CMAQ funds through Weber Davis. And so we're right about there. Between the two, we're over about 23 vehicles from what we were funded back then. And just to give an idea of the program, back in 2019, before COVID hit, we had 432 vehicles in service. And then in 2023, we hit 442 van pool groups. So on average, we had 10 more van pool groups throughout the year. And we're continuing to grow, where in 2024, we hit 452 vans. And I'll report more on that next year as we get final numbers on that. So I just wanted to keep this short and sweet update and take any questions that you have.
Thank you, Michael. Does anybody have any questions for Michael before we move on? Okay, seeing none. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we're going to move to our next item. It is the ITS annual report from Matt Luker with UDOT.
Good morning, everyone. Can you see my screen okay and hear me?
Yep, we can.
All right, great. Appreciate being able to join you today. I regret I can't be there in person. My name is Matt Luker. I'm the ITS program manager at the Utah Department of Transportation. I took over this position from Tyler Lang back in May of this year. So I'm still a little new, but learning a lot as the years go on. I want to start talking about kind of the growth of our ITS and signals throughout the state. This is looking back as far as 2019. And you can see each year we grow between 3 and 6%. But in the years from 2019 to 2024, the total number of signals and ITS, major ITS devices in the state has grown by about 27%. And if we look at the UDOT Region 1 area, which is Davis, Weber County, and then the other counties of northern Utah, we've actually grown faster than that. We've grown by almost 30% over the 6-year period. Talk about a couple of projects that we're working on or have recently completed. We have been, since 2018, working to replace all of our analog CCTV cameras with digital CCTV cameras. The digital cameras provide a much better image. We're able to see more detail. They also allow the network to operate more efficiently. Less bandwidth is required, and they're more supported by the manufacturers. These analog cameras are not available anymore. And I believe that we are complete or almost complete with the UDOT cameras in the Region 1 area and in Region 2. Most of the cameras left on the system that are still analog cameras are the ones that belong to other agencies like the cities or the counties. We've also been upgrading and installing variable message signs. These are one of our most expensive ITS devices. But they're great at providing information to the public. They're something that's quite noticeable. You can see here we've deployed or upgraded quite a few new ones within the last year. On West Davis Corridor, 3 upgraded ones on I-15, and then 2 new ones on US 89. All of these new VMSs that we're installing, the sign hardware is able to support full color messages. So we can put up signs that look like regular white on green or white on blue road signs. We're not doing that currently because our central software that runs these doesn't support that yet, but the new hardware that we're installing does support that. So in the next few years, as we get all the signs upgraded and as we get the central software upgraded, you'll probably start to see more colorful signs on the VMS. We always do a lot of work interconnecting traffic signals. This year, for example, we've upgraded the connection to a bunch of signals in the Kaysville area. That includes some UDOT signals and I believe some city-owned signals as well. Whenever we build a traffic signal at UDOT now, we're connecting it to our network because there's so many advantages to doing that. But we've also been trying to get the city's signals connected as well. We also have a project that is going to be starting here soon. That's going to be upgrading detection and the timing at some signals in Bountiful and Layton area. And that's using WFRC funds. This project, I think Tyler probably talked about last year, and we may talk about it again next year. We're upgrading our central ATMS system. We're calling it ARCH, or Active ITS Roadway Communications Hub. We started the rollout of this software back in July of this year, but we're replacing a system that we've had in place for over 20 years. And as any of you who use software know, you'll know that 20 years is quite a long time. There's a lot of pieces to that software, a lot of modules that we're migrating over to the new system in a careful fashion to make sure that all the new modules that are being developed are working together properly. And that's something that's being actively worked on right now. Just want to give a quick update on a few future projects that are coming that are going to involve ITS and signals. These are not all pure ITS and signals projects. One, obviously a big one, is the I-15 project that is being planned from Salt Lake City up to Farmington area. There's going to be a lot of ITS devices included in that project. There's also new interchanges being built at Shepherd Lane in Farmington and at 1800 North in Sunset. And then there are plans to rebuild the 24th Street interchange in Ogden, and all of those will have a ITS component. That's all I have to go today. Wanted to keep it short and sweet. I've got my contact information here, and then Josh Boudrero from my group is there in person, and he works out of the Region 1 office. And feel free to reach out to either of us at any time if you have questions about ITS. And I'd be happy to take if there are any questions now, if there's any from the group.
Thank you, Matt. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, seeing no one, move on. Thank you. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go to item 6 now, and we'll invite Stan Penfold to give us a report on the Green Bikes annual report.
Thank you very much. My name is Stan Penfold. I'm the Executive Director of Green Bike Utah. We have been in Salt Lake City for almost 12 years now, and we opened in Ogden in August of 2022 with 6 stations. We added another station in 2023, and this year we added 3 additional stations, with 1 more that we'll put in before the end of the year. It's just pending some finished construction work. We're seeing a really significant increase in our ridership across our entire system, but also including Ogden. And one of the components that we're noticing is that as we have been putting e-bikes into our system, ridership goes up pretty significantly. We're seeing people using e-bikes anywhere from 10 to 15 times more frequently than our classic unpowered bikes. I think it's partly because they're just a lot of fun to ride, and they compete pretty effectively with the scooters. So we're seeing that growth across our system. We're also seeing that in Ogden. It's anticipated that we'll put in probably another 3 to 4 stations next year based on funding through the WFRC process. So we really appreciate that. And one of the things we're considering that's working well in Ogden, it seems to be working well, is we're partnering with some of the recent housing development. They're doing quite a bit of housing infill in the downtown area. And we're partnering with the city along their existing and future bike infrastructure projects. And what we're seeing is, what we're hoping to provide is an opportunity for people who live downtown, who decide to locate downtown, to have options that include leaving their car parked. And we're seeing quite a bit of activity around new activity around people who are actually living in town and getting around town with the green bike system. So as we look at our expansion, we're really trying to target areas where people want to go who actually live downtown. We don't see quite as much commuter use as we see in Ogden as we do in Salt Lake City. We do have a front runner stop. We see a lot of use there for people who are coming in for activities like the Farmers Market or the Twilight Series, concert series, who want to connect from the train station into downtown. And so we've been working with UTA very closely to make sure we're encouraging as much alternative use for those types of projects as possible. So people aren't driving downtown for those events. They actually have a really easy alternative by riding UTA and connecting with us. It's been exciting to be in Ogden. We really see a lot of potential for growth there. The city's been incredible to work with. And ultimately, I think our goal is to figure out how to connect and get up on campus. I think systems that have a campus component quadruple in size pretty quickly. And I think there's some demand up there. We're exploring those opportunities now. So again, we've been really happy with our growth, and Ogden has been kind of slow and steady, but pretty much actually a little bit better than what we had anticipated when we first initially opened. So, any questions?
Thank you so much, Stan. Is there any questions for Stan? That was an awesome report. I appreciate it. That's exciting news for Ogden City. And we're going to move on to number 7. That is a presentation from Harrisville City from Matt Robertson.
All right, let's get my screen. All right, guess we're good, right? Okay, well, first off, if you're thinking you heard from me a couple, in our last meeting, it's because you did. And I told Ben that people would be sick of me and it wasn't a good idea, but here I am again. In August, I gave a presentation on Far West City, and today it's Harrisville's turn. I work for Jones and Associates, and the nice thing about working there is we do get to work with a lot of municipalities in northern Utah, and I just happen to be the city engineer for Far West and Harrisville. So happy to be here again. I love working with Harrisville. In fact, I grew up there in Harrisville. My parents still live there. I've got a lot of relatives that go, my roots go very deep there in Harrisville. So it's, I love working with them. It's exciting to be part of their team out there. So kind of similar to what I did with Far West, and just want to quickly go over and kind of spotlight some of the growth and that's happening in the city and some of our transportation projects. So it's not a huge city. It's if you guys are familiar with it, it's just sandwiched in between Ogden City, North Ogden, Pleasant View, and Far West, up there in northern Weber County. About 2.7 square miles. Current population's around 7,000. Which over the last 20 or so years, it's about doubled. Primarily residential. Of course, like a lot of the communities out here, it was historically a farming community, but that's being switched over. There are some commercial and manufacturing developments in the city as well. Some of the big things going on right now that I'll get into are the mixed use developments going on in the city. There's the Ben Lomond Golf Course, the redevelopment of that property, and there's also a Dixon Creek Park, which is off of Washington Boulevard. That's another mixed use development. And then another big thing going on right now is we're looking at, we're currently constructing a new public works facility. And on the same property that the city owns, we have plans to eventually have a new city hall, police station, and Northview Fire is going to build a fire station over on that property. So I'll get into that. Some of these developments, we don't need to look at all of this, all these words here, but basically, you know, we have a population of about 7,000 right now, but these developments that I've listed here are either in construction, have been approved, or are working through the approval process. And as you see up here at the top, it's about 1,100 new residential units in the city. So for a smaller city like Harrisville, it's fairly significant. I mean, that, you know, could be a population increase of 3,000 residents or so in the next several years if all of this builds out as they're projecting. Real quick, that's just a quick Google view of with those developments that I had on the last slide highlighted. We'll get in and I'll talk a little more specifically about the Ben Lomond Golf Course. That seems to be the question that we get all the time. But here's the Ben Lomond Golf Course, and that's a mixed use development. There's some smaller ones. This is 65 units in a mixed use right here with some commercial. This is the Dixon Creek Park over here. That's about 100, almost 200 units, but it also donated 11 or 12 acres to the city for a park and a wetland area, and then there'll be commercial there. And these are smaller residential areas, and then anyway, some more residential developments going on in the city. So I wanted to show this because this is the golf course that I remember growing up and playing. I love golf. Not very good at it, but I love going. And this is where I grew up playing. So that's what I remember, the Ben Lomond Golf Course. That's from about 10 years ago. This is what it looks like now. A little different. They closed up shop at the end of 2018, I think. Does that sound right, Glenn? End of 2018. The course, I don't think, was making money, and the ownership decided to sell. They sold, though, before they went through any type of rezoning or work on what was going to be developed there. So it's been quite the long, kind of drawn out process. Worked with a couple different developers now, and we're finally getting close. This does, you know, as a golfer, it makes me a little sad, but it happens. It's funny, the first couple of years of working through the planning of this with the developer, I used to, when we talk about places on the development, I used to just refer to places by the holes, you know, down by number 4 green or, you know, number 12 or what. And they got sick of me. I think it got annoying because they didn't know where that was at. So I finally have kicked that habit. It's now this residential mixed use development. This is the overall master plan that was approved in 2021. It has a commercial element more in the middle. They were trying to go for more of kind of a town center feel with commercial that would provide some kind of commodities for the community that'll live there and the surrounding community. There's been talks recently. It's being potentially sold to another developer right now, and they are amending the MDA to potentially have more flexibility to move that commercial around and some of that density around. But overall, it's 664 residential units. That density is going to stay the same, although there may be some flexibility in what this layout, this original layout is. So that's been a big talk. There's some frustration that it's taken quite a while, and residents keep asking us, and we're like, well, we're not the developer, we're the city, and we're working with them. But they have put in some pretty significant infrastructure down Highway 89 this year. They had to take their sewer down Highway 89. So they've spent that money and have some other infrastructure going in. So we're finally seeing some movement over there. I wanted to show this. This is on the other side of the highway. You can kind of see it's a little grayed out, but here's the development, the golf course development there. The city owns this piece of land over here, and they have for quite a while. HHI Corporation owns this property down here, but we are currently building our public works facility over here off of 750 West. the new city hall's planned for right here and the fire station right here. So this road, the 1750 north, it's being constructed to here right now. I'll show you a little later, but we do have some funding through community project funding through Congressman Moore's office, I think, to help build or do the infrastructure for this road to tie it into the highway. This will be a light in the future once it warrants it, and we work with UDOT on that. Again, that's just kind of the site plan of what's going on in the city complex. That's from yesterday. That's a view of what our public works building is looking like. We're pretty excited. It's looking great. I mean, there'll be some kind of slate cladding where you see the that OSB or whatever that plywood is right there. Their material bays on this side and their shops and their admin building over here. So we're excited. It's coming along. It's looking great. Their current facility is very small, and they're definitely in need of a new facility. There's that road where it comes out to 750 West. All right, just to touch on a few transportation projects real quick. We've had a great relationship with WFRC and Weber County as well through the WACOG on some projects. I wanted to quickly just show you some pictures of a pretty successful project from a few years ago with Larson Lane. Last year, they had some safe sidewalk money to do some improvements on 2000 North. And then our next projects coming up are the West Harrisville Road widening. I think I showed you last time with Far West, they're looking at a roundabout at the kind of the border between Far West and Harrisville and West Harrisville Road, and then 750 West. That just gives you an idea of our current functional classification, intersection control. This is future. This is from our master plan prepared by WCG. And then here's the projects identified to get to that future. So this is the West Harrisville Road widening I talked about. I wanted to show you Larson Lane real quick. This was done a few years ago, but it was a great project. The county helped out with corridor preservation money to purchase right of way along this stretch for the widening. And then we had STIP money for the construction. So it was an old 2-lane road, but it, as you can see right here, it's that short connector between Wall Avenue, Highway 89, Washington Boulevard. It gets a lot of traffic. And for a long time, it's just this 2-lane road. This is what it currently looks like. Still 2 travel lanes, but you have the 2-way left turn lane in the middle, as well as shoulders and bike lanes. There's just a few shots from construction from a few years ago that were fun to share. This project went great. The nice thing about it, we were able to shut the road down during construction to help with construction. Glenn was just telling me how much it's improved the safety on that. They used to have a lot of accidents over there, and those have been reduced significantly after this project. That's the road looking back to the west. So real quick, I want to show West Harrisville Road. This is our next. It's wide enough. We're looking at doing something similar with a center lane, a center median, and 2 travel lanes. But the road is just 2 lanes from about 89 or by the church down here by 89, just past the tracks. So our next widening project with some federal funding is widening this roadway to provide for that, the improved safety and capacity on that road. That's kind of the extent of what we're looking at, is just widening along the south side of the roadway. And then another one that's that's recently received funding through WFRC and WACOG is 750 West. That's coming off of West Harrisville Road. It's a collector in the city. Again, just a 2-lane road without curb and gutter and sidewalk. The first phase will widen it up to this city complex where 1750 North cuts across, and have a couple travel lanes and add in shoulders and curb and gutter and sidewalk. Let's see, that's a quick rundown. I know it's been a longer meeting, so I don't want to take too long, but are there any questions about Harrisville or what's going on in the city? Okay, well, appreciate it. Stop the share.
Thanks, Matt. Your presentations are always great. Maybe we'll have you every meeting. Big changes since we were out there last month on that complex. And just Larson Lane project photos are some of my favorite. I hope you don't mind. I use them in my presentation sometimes, but they really turned out amazing. So that was a great project. Appreciate you being here and sharing that all with us. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 8, which is the proposed 2025 tax schedule. So we'll invite Ben up to go over that with us.
All right, so what we want to review quick, we did something a little different this year. We actually emailed out the draft schedule there so that you could have an opportunity when you're at the comfort of your desk, got your calendars there to look and see if any of these dates had conflicting times so that we would know. What we're looking at this next year is we have 6 meetings. Our first meeting there in January with some potential agenda items, as you see there. So on the 15th of January, a little different than what we normally do. Normally, we're on the last Wednesday of the month. In February, on the 26th, that is the last Wednesday of the month. But you'll remember that this is a meeting where we have the roadshow, where we're going to go through all of the project concept reports that get submitted. We'll go through all of them so that you're familiar with those projects. And then when we meet in March, which in March I'll point out is an in-person meeting, we want recommendations from the Technical Advisory Committee on the projects that will move forward in this next process for the 2026-2031 Transportation Improvement Program. Then you'll see we meet again in May, and then in August, and then in October. So if you would look at those times, agenda items might fluctuate. If there's something that you want us to bring up in a meeting, something that, hey, this is interesting, or this is cool, or I've got a concern or issue, we can bring that up in these meetings with all of the engineers and all of the representatives from the city in the Ogden-Layton urban area and discuss about them, or have someone come and present information. However, as cool and as exciting as this part is, if you turn the page over, we get even more exciting. Now my clicker won't click, Rosie. There we go. That's the, oh, too far. That is the page that shows who gets the chance to bring refreshments for the next meeting. So that one is a highlight, you know, mark that, put a star by it so that you're here. You can put in your orders. I'm just kidding. But the person who's assigned to bring the refreshments there, you'll see, we'll start right off out of the gate there with Hooper in January. Then we got Marriott Slaterville, and then WFRC will take care of the treats in March when we have our discussion on the projects. North Ogden in May, and then Ogden as August, and Plain City in October. So be sensitive to those times when you have, not only will you bring the refreshments, but we would ask that you do a city presentation like Matt just did today. Well done, Matt. Thank you for last month and this month. Are there any questions as far as the schedule for next year, or any concerns or potential date conflicts? Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Wayne. Any comments online? Thanks, Wayne. I forget about those folks. Sorry. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ben. Okay, moving on to action item number 9, the moment you've all been waiting for. This is your opportunity to vote on chair and vice chair for this committee for next year. So we will open up the floor to those that are in person and those that are online for any nominations or volunteering for those positions to conduct the meetings next year. Boyd. Okay.
We've always done this as just a 1-year position. Would there be any, you do such a great job. I don't want to lose you.
Appreciate it.
Should there be any consideration to keep these positions for 2 years rather than 1 year? Just throw that out to the group.
Does anybody have any comments on that? I'm not opposed to the idea as long as there isn't anybody that would like the opportunity.
That sounds like a motion.
Oh, okay. Hold on, Daniel.
Alternating, correct? We're alternating between, county, I think, so are we County State of Mississippi Davis, that would be your consideration?
So last year, the chair was Boyd with Davis County. So you're saying if it stayed,
If it stayed you for 2 years, that, just some. Is that everybody's understanding? Do we need to have a motion on that understanding before we make a motion for 2 years or?
yeah, I don't think it's been an official, but maybe Wayne's gonna weigh in here for us.
Thanks for bringing up that question, Daniel. I think staff recommendation, well, let me first say that it's totally up to the committee. However you want to operate it's your call. I think staff recommendation would be that we not have a hard and fast rule on alternating, just because committee's also dependent on the willingness of individuals or communities to have somebody chair or vice chair. But that said, again, whatever wants to do. So.
Appreciate that, Wayne. Is there anybody else out there that would like to volunteer or nominate anybody else to serve? Or should we continue with Boyd's motion to have the term be 2 years, which would be me continuing for next year? Yes, the current vice chair would also carry over for the second year next year. And the current vice chair is from Kaysville City, correct?
Yeah, Dexter Fisher from Kaysville.
Okay. Is there anybody that would like to second the motion or propose an alternate? Okay, we have a second from Daniel. Thank you. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Thank you for the opportunity, everybody. Okay, we're going to move on to our last item, which is other business. First, I just wanted to thank Harrisville for their presentation and also providing the refreshments today. We appreciate you guys. So everybody make sure you go and get some before you head out. We also had a request to do a photo at the end of the meeting. So if anybody's willing, if you wouldn't mind to stick around, they wanted a group photo of us. It looks like our next meeting is scheduled for January 15th, which is on the schedule that Ben just went over. And in that meeting, we'll have refreshments being provided by Marriott Slaterville. Is there any other business that anybody would like to discuss before we adjourn? Hi, David.
Thank you. Tonight at the COG meeting for Davis County, we'll be the committee will be making a recommendation for third quarter funding. So stay tuned for that. It'll be 5 o'clock today. It's being hosted at Fat Cats, the new bowling alley and entertainment center in Clinton.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks. Thanks, David. Exciting news, I'm sure, for everybody. All right. Is there any other business or comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll take a motion to adjourn. Motion passes. Thank you. We're adjourned.